The Strada is a really useful and durable bike computer that I love having on my mountain bike. In this episode, I'm going to show you my favorite way to install and calibrate it. It's a good idea after unboxing to identify all the pieces. First, you have the bracket strap. This will secure the device to your handlebar. This is the actual bracket that pops into the bracket strap once you're oriented to how you want to mount it. This is your speed sensor. This is the device that will mount on your fork and read the information from the magnet. This is the magnet, which is mounted on the spoke, which relays information to the speed sensor. There's a plastic nut that goes with the bracket strap, and we'll put those together. And then there's a pad for mounting the device to your handlebars. Of course, 2 zip ties. And this is the rubber pad for mounting the speed sensor to the fork securely. I like to start with the rubber mounting pad and the speed sensor on the right fork. Once you assemble these as shown, you can then wiggle the rubber onto your fork and make sure that it's seated properly. Next, we're going to grab zip ties. And we're going to do 1 zip tie on the top and 1 on the bottom. You can see the hole that's specifically for the zip tie, and it goes right around the top of the rubber pad and then secures like any zip tie would. You're going to repeat the same step for the bottom zip tie. I will note at this point you just want to put a snug grip on it. You don't want to tighten everything down right now because you're going to be moving it. Just enough to hold it in place for now. Now we have our magnet. We're going to want to mount the magnet on a spoke nearest to the speed sensor. This unthreads just like any screw counterclockwise, and you'll see the notch that's designed specifically for gripping around your spoke. You want to make sure you find a spoke that's close to the speed sensor on the right side. Go ahead and snug it down. Finger tight should be sufficient. I like to make sure the magnet's at the very top of the spoke. Once that's tightened down, we'll move to the front for a different angle. You're going to want to make sure that the speed sensor is very close to the magnet, no more than a few millimeters distance, or it won't read out. CAT instructions actually recommend a 5mm distance between the speed sensor and the magnet for proper readout. Next, we're going to install the bracket band. You're going to want to make sure this is oriented appropriately, or your device won't clip in right side up. The bracket, which actually holds the computer device, will snap into the bracket band. This is where you want to test your orientation and make sure you have it correct. As you can see, the device will slide in from the top of the bracket to be oriented right side up. So, once you figure out which way you're going to mount it, snap the bracket in accordingly. And it takes a little wrestling to snap this in appropriately. Once it's snapped in, you may want to go ahead and grab the device and snap it in place, just to make sure everything's going to mount up right side up in the way you want it. Now that we have everything oriented appropriately, we can take our adhesive foam pad and go ahead and adhere it to the back of the bracket band. It's cut to shape, so when you study the bracket band, you'll easily be able to tell how the foam adhesive pad is supposed to actually go on. One tip here is you want to make sure that you don't cover up the bracket band feed through hole. As you can see, they make the adhesive band just long enough to cover the entire strap where it's going on the handlebar. And then they leave just enough room here for the strap to go through. Now feed the strap through and get your plastic nut. Once the plastic nut is on, We just tighten it down clockwise like any old nut. There's a lot of excess band which we'll trim off later. Nice snug finger tightness here should be sufficient. One thing to keep in mind is, on a big fat stem, you have to mount these on the handlebar. If your bike has a small enough stem, you may opt to put the bracket band on your stem and mount the device right in the center of the handlebars. Of course, that would require a different orientation of the bracket band. Now that your device is snapped in, you can go ahead and pull off the protective covering and maybe give it a few clicks just to make sure it's working. Now, in order to calibrate, we'll take off the device and hit the menu button. Once we're in to the millimeters of wheel circumference, we can play with this number using the little clicker on the bottom. Holding it down will help it jump from one placeholder to the next, and then single clicks will change the actual numbers. The larger numbers are going to give you a faster speed, and smaller numbers are going to give you a slower speed. The cat-eye instructions come with a pretty good guide for a starting point, but I like to do trial and error to get mine extremely accurate by using a GPS-based app on my cell phone. These apps can be downloaded for free, and there's a number of different ones you can use. So while I ride around on my bike, I check the GPS speedometer and I compare it to my cat-eye Strada speedometer. If I need to make adjustments, I go back and adjust accordingly until I can match the speeds as close as possible. It's really just a trial and error process, but I think it's a really neat, effective way to get an accurate readout. Another way to calibrate your odometer is to pull up your Strava. Strava will tell you how far you've gone as you're moving. So what I like to do is watch Strava's odometer while I watch my cat-eye Strada odometer. Once I hit 1/10 of a mile on Strava, I should see 1/10 of a mile on my cat-eye. And you could even go further if you want to test more, but usually I stop with 1/10 of a mile, and thus far it's been pretty accurate. And again, if you need to adjust the numbers for this, you can as well. But as you would imagine, once you adjust the speed and get it appropriate, then your odometer is going to be close as well. Once all that's done, go out on the trails and enjoy your new bike computer. You get lots of useful information from it. I love mine, and I think you'll love yours too. Thanks for watching. If you're enjoying these videos, click like and subscribe, and there'll be an affiliate link in the description if you're interested in buying this device. And in the meantime, keep your pedals cranking.